Trump's space race, a tangled affair with NASA and SpaceX. The New Yorker's podcast reveals a conversation about how NASA's trajectory is increasingly shaped by political influences, particularly under the Trump administration. With a growing reliance on SpaceX and Elon Musk, concerns arise over potential conflicts of interest. Is Trump's fascination with Mars a genuine scientific pursuit, or a guise for downsizing budget allocations elsewhere? Complex relationship between NASA and SpaceX. The complex relationship between NASA and SpaceX represents a transformative era in space exploration, marked by both opportunity and controversy. Under the Trump administration, NASA's reliance on SpaceX, led by Elon Musk, has increased significantly. This relationship not only reflects an era of privatization in space missions, but also raises concerns about potential conflicts of interest and the direction of U.S. space policy. As outlined in a detailed analysis by The New Yorker, the Trump administration's focus on ambitious projects like the Mars mission often mirrors its broader political and economic agenda, sometimes overshadowing the collaborative essence required for sustainable space exploration. This partnership between NASA and SpaceX is driven by a strategic need to outsource space travel and propagate American leadership in the new space race. However, the increasing politicization of NASA under Trump's tenure could pose risks to its scientific missions and ethical standards. The concern is that private companies, particularly SpaceX, might wield undue influence over NASA's strategic decisions. Elon Musk's dual role as a techno-entrepreneur and a key Trump administration advisor complicates this dynamic further, potentially leading to preferential treatment in contract awards. The impacts of NASA's deepening ties with SpaceX are also evident in the economic sphere. For instance, SpaceX has reaped considerable financial rewards, securing lucrative contracts that have bolstered its position in the space industry. This reliance, however, risks establishing a near monopoly over critical NASA missions, challenging the competitive landscape and potentially driving up costs for future projects. Critics argue that such dependency might limit NASA's ability to harness diverse technologies from various private entities. Public sentiment reflects an array of views, often critical of how political considerations are influencing NASA's direction. Concerns about budget cuts and centralized decision-making raise questions about NASA's capacity to uphold its exploratory and scientific mandate. The narrative that often accompanies high-profile missions, like those involving SpaceX, tends to emphasize the political dividends reaped by the Trump administration, perhaps at the expense of competitor diversity and overall mission integrity. The future implications of this relationship between NASA and SpaceX are multifaceted and uncertain. Economically, while there are benefits in efficiency and cost-effectiveness with privatization, the lack of competitive checks might stifle innovation in the long run. Socially, the precedence of political agendas over scientific inquiry may erode the collaborative ethos of NASA, affecting employee morale and public trust. Politically, the intertwining of administration interests with private enterprise could undermine NASA's global leadership, impacting its long-term objectives and scientific pursuits. Growing influence of SpaceX and Elon Musk. Under the Trump administration, the relationship between NASA and SpaceX, helmed by Elon Musk, has become both crucial and contentious. With political undertones influencing NASA's strategic direction, Elon Musk's SpaceX has rapidly emerged as a pivotal player in the agency's mission to explore and potentially colonize space. This increasing reliance is not without controversy, as there are growing concerns about the potential conflicts of interest and the long-term strategic implications for NASA. Elon Musk, known for his ambitious vision of space exploration, has successfully positioned SpaceX as NASA's go-to partner for many high-profile space missions. The successful return of astronauts from the ISS aboard SpaceX's Crew 9 mission was a public relations triumph for Musk, allowing him to share the spotlight with a favorable Trump administration. However, NASA officials have expressed concerns about the political narratives overshadowing the scientific goals of such missions, emphasizing that success should not be pinned on singular entities or political figures. The potential budget cuts to NASA, particularly those targeting the Science Mission Directorate, could have dire consequences for both the agency and its private partners like SpaceX. If the Trump administration moves forward with the reported 50% budget slash, this could imperil planned missions and curtail the scientific research that underpins NASA's exploratory endeavors. Such financial strain may inhibit NASA's ability to maintain its independence in decision-making and push it further into the hands of private companies reliant on government contracts. Critics argue that SpaceX's growing dominance in NASA's strategic plans risks creating a monopolistic environment in the space industry, where smaller companies find it difficult to compete. This could stifle innovation and limit NASA's options when contracting for future missions. The Trump administration's alignment with Musk's vision appears to narrow the agency's focus, centering predominantly around high-profile projects like a manned mission to Mars, which some view as a distraction from other critical NASA initiatives. Despite the controversies, SpaceX's technical achievements cannot be understated. The company has made significant strides in reusable rocket technology, drastically lowering the cost of space travel and opening new possibilities for NASA missions. This technological prowess places SpaceX at the forefront of space exploration, a position that potentially aligns with the Trump administration's desire for lucrative and high-visibility victories in space policy. However, this dynamic also raises questions about the sustainability of relying so heavily on a single private company for national space priorities. Trump's Mars mission, genuine interest or budget cover? The Trump administration's focus on a Mars mission has sparked debate over whether this initiative is a sincere endeavor to boost space exploration or merely a strategic facade for diverting attention from significant budget reductions within NASA. The culmination of the Trump administration's close association with SpaceX and Elon Musk adds layers of complexity to this discussion. SpaceX has become a pivotal player in NASA's agenda, raising concerns about the influence of private companies on public space policies, which may overshadow genuine scientific goals. One theory suggests that the emphasis on Mars could serve as a diversion, drawing public attention away from the Trump administration's extensive budget cuts, potentially targeting NASA's scientific projects and other critical operations. This perceived distraction underscores fears that certain programs essential for long-term scientific advancement and innovation might suffer in favor of high-profile missions designed to generate public excitement. Furthermore, the integration of private interest within NASA, particularly through SpaceX's entanglements, presents a conflict of interest that has not gone unnoticed. Critics argue that Elon Musk's dual role as a leading private space entrepreneur and an influential governmental advisor might skew NASA's priorities toward commercially profitable ventures rather than purely scientific pursuits. Thus, Trump's Mars initiative could be seen as intertwined with these broader political and economic maneuverings, potentially marginalizing research areas pivotal to understanding and exploring space beyond just achieving Mars landings. In summary, while the allure of Mars provides an ambitious frontier for exploration, the underlying motivations of the Trump administration's push for this mission raise crucial questions about the sustainability and authenticity of such efforts. Whether driven by geopolitical posturing, economic strategy, or genuine scientific aspiration, discerning the true intent behind Trump's Mars focus is essential for evaluating the future trajectory of American space efforts. NASA layoffs and their impact. NASA's recent layoffs have raised significant concerns across the agency and beyond. A decision that affected 23 employees across crucial offices has been labeled targeted and cruel by some. These layoffs have not only contributed to a growing sense of distrust among NASA's workforce, but also intensified worries about the agency's ability to fulfill its ambitious space exploration goals. The layoffs at NASA are set against a backdrop of increasing political influence, primarily through its reliance on SpaceX and Elon Musk. The Trump administration's involvement in the perception of favoritism towards private entities have prompted concerns about NASA's priorities and autonomy. The close ties between the agency and SpaceX have led to apprehensions about potential conflicts of interest and compromised decision-making processes. In addition to trust issues, economic and operational impacts of the layoffs are substantial. With potential budget cuts looming over NASA, fears are mounting that the agency's workforce might face further reductions. This situation is precarious as it could hinder NASA's capacity to innovate and maintain leadership in the global space race. Public opinions regarding NASA's layoffs and its increasing reliance on private companies like SpaceX are largely negative. Many express skepticism about the purported benefits, highlighting ethical concerns and the risk of commercial interests overshadowing public ones. The potential for NASA's goals to be diverted due to financial exigencies and private pressures is a significant source of anxiety among stakeholders. The current scenario at NASA serves as a stark reminder of the broader tensions within U.S. space policy. As the agency strives to balance its governmental duties with private partnerships, the recent layoffs underscore the need for transparent governance and strategic alignment. The involvement of figures like Elon Musk with key decision-making processes adds a layer of complexity to NASA's mission-driven scientific pursuit. Analyzing potential budget cuts at NASA. The conversation around potential budget cuts at NASA under the Trump administration paints a stark picture of the challenges facing one of America's most iconic institutions. As highlighted in the New Yorker article, NASA's reliance on private entities like SpaceX sparks fears about the agency's vulnerability to political whims and economic pressures. Trump's keen interest in a Mars mission raises questions about whether this focus diverts attention from crucial scientific programs that face the risk of budget reductions. Such cuts could be driven by the broader agenda of reducing federal spending, further intensifying concerns about the fate of NASA's diverse objectives. The implications of potential budget cuts extend beyond immediate financial constraints, as public reactions indicate. There is a palpable sense of unease among stakeholders, reflecting apprehension about NASA's future direction. Many fear that the prioritization of private partnerships could lead to a compromised ability to pursue independent and innovative exploration programs. The relationship between SpaceX and the Trump administration, as discussed in the source, illustrates the critical need for transparency and balanced influence in NASA's undertakings, ensuring that scientific integrity is not sacrificed for political expediency. Concerns about budget cuts to NASA's Science Mission Directorate threaten to impede the agency's ability to meet its scientific and exploratory goals. Reports suggest a possible 50% reduction in the Directorate's funding for fiscal year 2026, a move that could have drastic implications for ongoing and future projects. The reduction not only places immediate missions at risk, but also disrupts the continuity of long-term strategic planning that is essential for the United States to maintain its leadership in space exploration. As per The Independent, the consequences of these financial constraints reverberate through NASA's workforce, potentially eroding the agency's extensive expertise and its appeal to upcoming scientists and engineers. Within this context, the ongoing political discourse surrounding NASA, including the agency's growing interaction with SpaceX, underscores the need for careful examination of funding strategies and their broader impacts. The potential for budget cuts serves as a catalyst for debates over the agency's strategic priorities, mission viability, and operational independence. The complexities of these issues, as detailed in the linked article, necessitate thoughtful policymaking that prioritizes the long-term sustainability and success of NASA's missions. Addressing these challenges requires balancing innovation with robust oversight and maintaining NASA's core mission of advancing human knowledge and exploration.